Everybody, so welcome to House Calls, the podcast. Thanks for listening. But if you're watching, Matt is wearing a shirt that I called a puffy shirt. What did you call it, Matt?
Uh, I called it by its correct name. It's quilted. It's not puffy.
Quilted.
And
Okay,
yeah,
I wore a quilted shirt, I think about 5 years ago around the holidays, and you mocked me all night. Like I'm afraid to branch out anymore. I've been wearing a quarter zip and a t-shirt every podcast since. I have a puffy shirt just like yours that I
all
can
right.
wear, but you mocked me.
Stop. This isn't Seinfeld. We're not talking about puffy shirts. And yours was a Patagonia. I know exactly what it was, and it's quilted. It's not puffy. It's called quilted. And secondly,
Okay,
you're
if
not
I
known for your
pushed you
fashion.
down and you had your quilted shirt on, you would have a certain amount of cushion that it wouldn't hurt as bad.
That's okay. All right. All right, but it's not puffy. You know, again, you're knowledgeable in a lot of areas, and I come to you for advice on lots of things. Fashion is never, ever going to be one of them. But thank you.
Yes, I actually do none of my own shopping with
We
a
know.
wife and two daughters. I do whatever they tell me to. But this is probably a good time we are like a NASCAR. Like if you give us a hat or a shirt, we'll wear it on the podcast.
Absolutely correct. Like, who is it? Dr. Tim Tootin. Like he used to wear every high school, in Baltimore. Like you do the snow delays, he'd put on like, Woodbrook or whatever one they gave him. So yeah, we'll do it. So we are not opposed to swag. And whoever wants to send us something, we'll wear it.
So first, we have two emails in from listeners. One contacted me today who was a former guest, and he was excited that we were interviewing some younger people. He enjoyed listening to those podcasts, but also thought it was a good platform for them to get used to podcasting and public speaking, basically. The other emailer had a question, said, "What's all this about protein? How much protein should I have?"
Wow. I mean, it just runs the gamut.
Yeah. So are you interested in how much protein should you have?
I am very interested in that.
Would you be more impressed that you knew I brought notes?
I would not be impressed because I expect nothing less than your full preparation for all of this.
So
would you be impressed that I don't have any notes?
Yes, I would be
I would
impressed.
be surprised. Okay.
So basically, the range of
I'm sorry. So we're going to go with the protein question first.
That's the only question we got. The other one was just a compliment that they liked Mary Kate, Molly, and Will.
Okay.
And all the other young people we've had on.
All right.
So the protein question: how much protein should you get a day?
Correct.
Since we are a medicine / wellness / sports / comedy / passions podcast.
Oh, fashions. Okay. Yes.
And fashions now that we talked about your puffy shirt. So the range of recommendations really ranges a lot. And I looked up a couple different experts that I trust, but basically anywhere from 0.8 to 1.6 grams per kilogram. So I'm going to break that down to you. So if you weigh about 150 pounds, that's about 70 kilograms. So that would mean that you need about 70 grams of protein a day. Okay, that's 1 gram per kilogram. Other people would argue that if you're lifting, maybe if you're trying to bulk up, if you're playing sports, it should be even higher than that, like higher than 2 grams per kilogram. But just to start off with 70 grams per kilogram. So what is that? That is basically like an 8-ounce steak. Steak is very dense from protein. An 8-ounce steak can be like 50 to 80 gram or 40 to 70 grams of protein. Okay. A chicken breast would be about 30 grams of protein. So you would almost need like 2 chicken breasts, a steak, and a little bit more of something else. An 8-ounce salmon would be about 40 grams to 60 grams. I'm just trying to put this in perspective. Right. Eggs, you need about 10 to 13 eggs a day to get to that level.
Jesus.
Okay. So the point that I want to make though is you don't have to dial in and have exactly the right amount of protein every day. It's more of an awareness to be like, oh man, I'm not getting enough protein a day.
So then a couple questions. Mm-hmm. How do I know if I need more protein? Like what does protein do? Right. So, and then the follow-up question would be, how would I feel different if I wasn't having enough protein?
So the one thing is protein helps you build muscle. It's basically the building blocks for muscle. And as you age, you are going to lose muscle. So you are trying to maintain your muscle or decrease your muscle loss. And you need protein to do that. And the reason I got into the whole, it's not so much am I getting 75 grams or am I getting 100 grams? It's more about if you were on a nutrition plan when you were younger. Like, I think you and I have both admitted we thought the ultimate plan was to like be a vegan. Like that was the ultimate way to be healthy. The science now shows that that's not necessarily the case. You need protein, and it's really hard to get that amount of protein being a vegan or a vegetarian, right?
Well,
When you hear about like maybe back in the day, some professional athletes who were vegetarians or vegans, they were eating massive amounts of food to get the protein they needed.
Right.
So if you're like on the run, you got other things going on in life, or maybe like you, who you don't love eating that much.
That's correct.
You need to make sure that some of those meals are protein.
Yep.
Okay. That gets into the second thing is more of a fitness trend is everybody's telling you should lift weights. Okay.
Right.
Especially everybody should lift weights. But the big concern is women who are perimenopause, postmenopause, need to lift weights. And if you're going to exercise, that might be the most valuable thing to you. So a lot of the stuff you'll see on the internet is basically saying that a lot of women, because of the nutritional science that was out when we were growing up, if they're not paying attention, they may not realize they're not getting enough protein, and they might not realize that they should be lifting weights. And the big question with lifting weights is just lift heavy, but you do not need to go to the gym every day and lift weights. Like literally 20 minutes, 3 to 4 days a week would be enough. You know, you do basically a different body part every day, and that would be enough, but you do try to lift heavy. And you are not going to get bulky by lifting weights. The chance of you getting bulky because you start lifting weights, and I don't mean you, I mean women somebody like with my frame, the chance of me getting bulky lifting weights is about the chance of me when I go to renew my license at the DMV of winning the Daytona 500. It is so hard to get.
Is that an option? You can win the Daytona 500 at the DMV? I did not know that, but okay. All right. Good to know.
Understand that reference?
I do.
I think the ultimate thing is it's not like you have to, I'm not trying to stress people out. And be like, I need 102 grams of protein and I need to lift weights these days. It's just a matter of like, hey, think about, are you getting enough protein? Pay attention. And hey, think about lifting weights if you're bored with your exercise routine. And what we were taught in the 70s and 80s of you need to be a distance runner who's a vegan is probably not the best thing for you.
And now a quick word from our sponsor.
Hey everybody, hope you're enjoying House Calls the podcast. Thought I'd take a quick second here to thank you for listening and make sure you're subscribing to wherever you get your podcast. And if you become a premium subscriber, you'll get more of the comedy from Frankie the Joke Man Waldron. Frankie, take it away.
Wait. Yeah. A man walks into a restaurant. He asks the waiter, "Can I have a steak?" The waiter says, "I'll make you a deal. You jump up and get it. You eat for free. But if you miss, you have to pay double." What does the man say?
I don't know what to say.
Steak's just too high.
Nailed it.
Classic Joke Man. And now back to the show.
All right. So protein, good. Are carbs good?
Well, I would argue that carbs are good because vegetables and fruits are carbs.
Okay. I'm literally asking.
Like the junk carbs. So like the processed carbs, the sugary carbs, the cakes, the candies. But I'll also argue that if it's Matt's birthday and cupcakes are going to bring us joy and that's what we're going to celebrate with, then that is good carbs. But if you're eating 50 cupcakes by yourself and it's not even your birthday, that's not very good. And the one thing I failed to mention is when you're saying how many grams per kilogram, it's kilogram of your ideal weight.
Oh, okay.
So it's not it's what your weight goal is. So if you're overweight, you're not stepping on the scale and being like, I need this many grams. You're trying to be like, this is what I want to weigh. That's how many grams it is.
All right. That's good to know because that's a lot of math in there as well. So, and I think one thing that gets people kind of nervous, and we've talked about this and trends and things like that is, okay, I'm supposed to take creatine. I'm supposed to eat protein. I should take turmeric for everything else. At what point do you have to figure out what works and what doesn't work, and how do you figure out what works?
The attitude I have is I think that some people are kind of health explorers. They
Yep.
actually enjoy trying all that stuff. And what I actually tell people in the office, like with different supplements and things like that, like we talk a lot about some of the anti-inflammatory supplements,
Right.
like turmeric or some of the anti-inflammatory diets, is that try it for 3 months and see if it works. And then kind of journal and say, do I feel better? Especially if you're putting money out for it. So say you bought a lifetime supply of turmeric pills,
Right.
and you feel no better. That's a lot of waste of money.
Yep. I got you.
And this gets into our bigger talk of what we're talking about tonight, is a little bit about health, wellness community versus kind of Western medicine community in the internet age of when you hop on some of these social media things and you're rolling through. If the algorithm thinks you're interested in health, you will get very conflicting data
all day.
And
Yep.
we're not going to get in specifically about you should do this or you should do that, but just kind of some of the things to think about.
Yeah, totally. I think that's helpful to myself and all 5,000 listeners.
So now, you know how you always say that I like to say something with an introduction that takes 5 minutes where we could have just jumped in 5 seconds?
Yes, I do.
So the reason I thought about this podcast was we were talking to Chuck Charles Baldecki, the head of school, about his philosophy class. And
Yes.
he was talking about Plato's cave allegory.
Yes, he was.
So this is going to be a very long introduction because I love the
I'm
cave
gonna get a drink. No,
allegory.
go.
Do you want to get your pillow?
I am. I'm getting a little something to drink. Go ahead. And I'm just going to mute and go.
So Plato's teacher was Socrates. Okay. And Socrates actually wrote nothing down. So what we know about Socrates is from some of his students who did write it down. One of those was Plato and a couple other people. And Socrates, basically, his famous quote is something about true wisdom is knowing that you know nothing. And he started the Socratic method, which is basically to question everything. Now, the reason he was put to death was because he was questioning the Greek society. He was questioning the leaders, the teachers, the other philosophers. And his greatest thing was that you should seek truth by questioning. And because he was questioning the government, they put him to death. Okay. That led Plato to his allegory. And basically, Plato's story, I guess you would call it a fable, right? Like what would you call that? A parable. You're in a cave with a bunch of other people. You're in a chair and there's a fire behind you, and you are seeing the shadows of animals up against a wall. And you're chained to your chair, and you think that's what life is. Like, you think that's all there is to life. And at some point, you're broken out, and you leave the cave, and and realize that light, the firelight, was not the real light. The sun is the real light. The sun blinds you. It's hard because now you're getting the truth, and sometimes the truth is not easy to take. But then you realize that the illusion's gone, and everything's great, right?
Yes.
And then you have a decision. Are you going to go tell everybody else that what you found, or are you going to just stay out there by yourself in the truth? And I guess in the Plato cave allegory, according to Charles, the point is if you go back down, they might kill you. I think in our terms, we might just resist you. So this is what I'm saying, is that for decades, we've all just been following Western medicine. You kind of do what your doctor tells you to do. And then some people have broken out of that and basically have found wellness, and they feel like they've left the cave. And I think, here's my analogy, I think some people are just building a new cave.
Ooh.
So I think that one of the things that got me interested in wellness is there's kind of two patient populations. The people who eat healthy and work out are always, on most occasions, health. So I just said always on most occasions. They're usually healthier than your category of people who are eating the standard American diet and aren't working out. That group has more chronic disease. But I think the group that is healthy and works out can still get sick. I mean, they
Sure.
still get sick. But I found that there's some people who are starting to basically not believe anything in Western medicine. So things that we really believe, they're kind of being like, well, that's not true. That's not true. Kind of like listen to one podcast, listen to one expert, and that person's out there giving a message, and it can be very confusing. So an example that happened to me just recently was, it was talking about dementia. It was like, what 3 medicines cause dementia? And the answer was, and it was a guy who was a Harvard physician and then an influencer saying this. And it was Benadryl was one of them. The other one was like Xanax type of medicines, benzodiazepines, which are kind of similar to alcohol, really. They're the same family as alcohol. And then the last one was statins, right? So I scroll through and I'm like, a lot of people are on statins. And in my mind, I was like, I wonder if that's because we become so specialized that the cardiologist who wants you to be on statins is not talking to the neurologist. But then the very next scroll was somebody being like, was a practicing doctor, sees people all the time who was like, oh, there's idiots on the internet saying that if you take statins, you're going to get dementia. So I'm looking at this. I'm a doctor. I look at studies. I like wellness. And I'm like, I heard a podcast by a cardiologist in England who was great. He presented himself very well about how statins aren't needed. But then I've heard other doctors who I trust very well who are putting all their patients on statins. And I realize I'm not the one in the lab, like doing the research, pouring statins into the petri dish and studying blood and studying all these things. So I admit it can be very confusing, even for somebody who studies it and lives it. And that's why I wanted to have a little bit of back and forth with you tonight about not the specifics are, should you be on a statin or not be on a statin, just some of the things that go on medicine that you should think about.
Oh, I'm sorry. My turn. Wow. Okay. Anyhow, well, all right. Yeah, no, that sounds great, Ty. I really love this 2-man team we got going on. This 2-man game that we have is unbelievable. The give, the take, the back and forth. It's awesome. It's like Pippen and Jordan right here, the way we just kind of play off each other. I'm so glad I can be the assist leader. But I'm happy to.
I think it's more like Marshawn Lynch when he was refusing to give interviews and he would only eat Skittles.
Skittles, yeah.
And then I would be, who would I be? Who else?
I have no idea. I don't know who you are.
I don't want to be Russell Wilson.
No. But okay, now I know my role. I know we've gotten some feedback that people really don't know what my role is here, and I don't either. And as you can just see, that is why I have no idea why I'm here. I think I'm the only one that knows that has a computer. I think that's why. But to your point, let's go down that rabbit hole. But I think the biggest question is, and maybe you've already answered that, is in your example, who do I listen to? The first guy that says all these things cause dementia, or the second guy that says, statins don't cause dementia? What does a lay person that doesn't have the privilege of picking your brain like this figure out which is the right one?
So I think the first thing is you have to realize, just start from the very beginning. We've known forever that like food is medicine. And if you are trying to do your best to eat healthy food, and you're trying to do your best to get in your exercise, you are going to be healthier and maybe decrease your chance of even needing to make those decisions. So if you're exercising and eating healthy, maybe your cholesterol never goes up. Maybe your blood pressure never goes up. Maybe you never become pre-diabetic, those kind of things. And that's basically following your nutrition. And I do want to say something about nutrition is that we didn't grow up with this knowledge. And first of all, I want to kind of make clear, sometimes we have a tendency to like demonize some of these things we shouldn't demonize. So for the food industry right now, everybody on the internet kind of wants to bash the food industry.
Right.
And I get it, because we did have a lot of bad food pushed on us. If I was eating a Pop-Tart every day and you're still eating Twizzlers every day, then that probably wasn't great for us. But for all of human society, we were trying to find food that was abundant, that was calorie dense, that you could preserve, and that tasted good.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
Since the dawn of man. Now, the last 50 years, we've gotten that. And now we're getting bigger and less healthy because we have so much food, because we eat too much and we eat too much sugar food. But that's not necessarily the food industry was evil and they were like, let's hook everybody on horrible food. I'm not saying there's not some companies out there who are trying to get you to eat as much of their food as you can, but I just want to say that we've come a long way in feeding the world and decreasing poverty. So it's not all demonization. It's not all bad, that we can walk down to the grocery store and we have choices, and the idea is choose healthy food instead of the non-healthy food. But I'm not that person who's like, I can't believe there's so many cookies in the grocery
Right.
store, because the idea is you're supposed to have cookies as a dessert, special occasions. If you're eating cookies every meal, that's your choice. I'm not going to outlaw choice.
So to sum up your 20-minute rant here, so my question again was, how do I know which is the guy to listen to? So,
Yes.
but I think your point is, if I may try to summarize
Yes.
for you,
Yeah.
is that you're basically saying if you have a platform that's healthy,
Mhm.
right? If you're whatever your workout is, whatever is eating healthy to you, that's majority of the battle, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so as long as you're doing that, you're going to be okay. You're not, no one's bulletproof, but you're going to be better than worrying about what the latest trend is.
Yes. And
Okay.
so that was a little bit of a saying, not everything in big food has to be bashed.
Right.
Not every processed carb is horrible for you in moderation. Not everything sugar is horrible in moderation. But then that leads to the other group that you hear a lot of this now. Oh, I hate big pharma, right? Have you heard that
yes,
comment?
Yes, I have.
Well, think about how many people over the last 100 years big pharma has kept alive.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that there's not some corruption in big pharma, but what I'm saying is I think on a whole, they've done a lot of great things, especially because they have no control over people eating better and exercising. They don't have control over that. So the idea is for people who aren't doing that, there are pills that can help lower your blood pressure, that can help lower your cholesterol, that can help treat your diabetes, all these things. Now, in a perfect wellness world, everybody wouldn't need those medicines, but it's not a perfect wellness world.
Yep. So back to the point about, if you have a good base, a good platform, what is your opinion or thoughts on, for example, your heart only has a certain amount of beats in it? The reason I'm asking is I think about runners like Jim Fixx, like who basically started the running craze in the U.S. in the early 70s, who died of a heart attack while running.
Yeah. So the thing that's rough about that, and I don't. So there's a tendency when somebody dies of a heart problem, they call it a heart attack.
Okay.
And sometimes it's not. It's like a heart arrhythmia or the hypertrophic heart that happens sometimes to young people. And I don't remember if Jim Fixx died of a heart attack either.
Right.
Or if it was a heart arrhythmia. I was too young when it happened. But it leads me into like the black swans.
Okay.
So a black swan is an unexpected event.
Okay.
So Jim Fixx, if he was running and eating well and he dies of a heart attack, he would be considered black swan, like totally unexpected. Yep. But maybe, and we probably shouldn't say a specific name like Jim Fixx. So let's just say the vegan cardiologist who does everything perfect and dies of a heart attack. And this is something that I hear sometimes, like when you're talking about like trying to be healthy, trying to work out, and they're like, oh, well, I knew this one guy, he did everything perfect and he died of a heart attack. The idea is maybe he started running because both of his parents died of heart attacks when they were young. Or maybe he started running after he started smoking 2 packs of Marlboro a day at age 12, and he finally quit at age 42 and then started running. You never really know. But to open up a little bit, when I started talking about wellness and kind of preaching that there were 2 patient populations and I wanted to put everybody in the less chronic disease patient population, I was like, I could have something, I can get a heart attack. I can have a stroke. I can have cancer. I'm not perfectly healthy. My family history is not perfectly healthy.
Right.
And I grew up eating Pop-Tarts every day for breakfast.
And ho-hos.
You feel like, oh my gosh, I'll be the laughing stock, but I'll be dead. They won't know.
Right.
But this is not a live forever type of thing. This is basically trying to be healthy as long as you got. And we've talked about that before. Be healthy in your last decade, whether your last decade is in your 130s or your 110s.
Yep.
So the one thing I want to caution something about the wellness world is that I think we stated kind of clearly that there is a profit motive to big food, and we feel like that's maybe making us less healthy. And there's a profit motive to big pharma, and maybe that's putting people on some medicines that maybe we wish they would do something else and not be on those medicines. There's also a profit motive to the wellness organizations.
Sure.
And that's where I'm talking about you are building, you leave Plato's cave just to build another cave. So you're leaving the cave of Western medicine, but you're just building another cave. And I think it's kind of clear what happens is there's not a whole lot of money in eat lean meats, eat fruits and vegetables, work out every day. Like, where's the money in that? There's no way in the office to bill for it.
Right.
But so what these people do is they start selling their supplements. And that was the question you said before. If you love this certain podcaster, certain influencer, and you start using his cookbook and you start doing his workouts, and then he starts telling you to use these supplements, they might be great, but they are also the same thing. They're trying to get your money.
Sure.
Do you know what Sutton's Law is?
Sutton Clark? I do not.
So Dr. Woodward, very famous University of Maryland doctor, would say Sutton's Law when he was talking in medicine. Sutton's Law is Willie Sutton, who was a famous bank robber.
Mm-hmm.
He eventually got caught, went to jail, but when he got out, he had such a charismatic personality that he was on the equivalent of like radio shows and TV shows in the day. And his famous interview was they asked him, Willie, why do you rob banks? And he said, because that's where the money is.
Yes.
So you should follow the money and realize that some of these people, do they have financial incentive to be selling you their thing? And you can watch it. Some of these health influencers, they kind of pop from one thing to another thing to another thing because they're making money off of it.
Right. They're sponsored by somebody.
Yeah.
Since we've been demonetized,
Yes.
So we are the safest spot for people to go. Is that what you're telling people?
I'm not going to say that, but I am going to say that some of the stuff that we think is fun to try.
Yes.
Like cold plunge.
Yep.
Right. That's not the end all be all to your health. If you are doing everything wrong in your health, the cold plunge is not going to help you.
Right.
But you also inherently know that if you have an inflamed joint and you're like, you should ice it to get the inflammation down, and maybe you want to ice it instead of taking Motrin, the cold plunge is a great solution.
Yes.
And then there's the whole psychological thing that if you jump in the cold plunge and you are absolutely miserable, and you're so stressed about doing it the next day, it's not good for you. But if you get that dopamine hit and you love it, it's fine.
Absolutely.
And so you can look at the science and see all the benefit that, but you also test it on yourself and be like, oh, I did cold plunge for 45 days. I felt amazing.
Yeah.
And another one would be everybody talking about saunas.
Right. Right.
So the data is great on saunas, but I think we all know that like sweating is probably good for you.
Yes.
Like sweating and then rehydrating is probably great for you.
Yeah. But you just have to try it.
So do you know what the difference between anecdotal and statistical evidence is?
No, Ty, please tell me.
So this is the biggest, this is probably one of the biggest things that I saw a lot. And I guess I started thinking about it during the COVID pandemic a little bit.
Okay.
So an example of anecdotal evidence would be that I told you we were the fastest growing podcast in America.
Facts.
Right? We did double our followers in 1 week. So
We did.
But statistical evidence would be if Spotify, YouTube, and Apple compared us to all the other podcasts and said percentage of, gave us the actual numbers. So we're going off of anecdotal evidence that we're the fastest growing podcast.
Yes.
So you see a lot of that in medicine. So
Okay.
if I hurt my back, maybe I have a huge ruptured disc, I get surgery and I do great. And you're like, oh, I've had back pain. I should get my back operated on. That would be anecdotal evidence. That would be taking it off of one person. Okay. That's not what you want to do.
No.
You want to look at the statistics of how successful is that surgery. So say something like a carpal tunnel surgery, which is going to be 99% successful, right? So you first of all have to make sure you have carpal tunnel. You don't want to just say my hand hurts,
Yep.
right? You have to make sure you have carpal tunnel. You have to make sure your symptoms warrant it. And then you need to know the risks of the surgery and the benefits of the surgery. And basically the benefits of the surgery are you have about a 98 to 90% chance of getting better.
Yes.
Okay. But that's where the black swans come in. If you're the 1% that doesn't get better, you don't really care that the other 99% got better.
Right. Right.
So you need to know the statistics. And the reason I thought about it in COVID a lot is because it was such in the news. It was social conversation all the time. And it was a little bit of a healthy father of 4 died or almost died of COVID.
Right.
And you'd be like, well, that's not the statistics. The statistics are that's an extremely rare occurrence. It's a black swine event. And sometimes you look deeper and you're like, well, he wasn't healthy. He had all
Right.
these other comorbidities that the news never told us about.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
So it's just so important to realize that when you hear, oh, I hurt my knee, I had a meniscal tear, and my friend John had a meniscal tear and he got better just with rest, you might be comparing apples to oranges.
Right. Right. And you need to kind of keep that lens on when you're looking at social media and all these influencers about wellness, and make sure you are looking at the proper statistics.
Yes.
The big picture, not just one guy.
And then we also talk about something called gold standard, where you have an illness and the gold standard is to treat it this way. Like it's like 100% of doctors are going to treat it this way. So say certain ways you break your wrist, 100% of wrist surgeons are going to treat it this way. Okay.
Okay.
Then the problem is there's always gray areas. And in medicine, I had an attending who used to say reasonable people can disagree. Okay.
Yep.
So you might have broken your wrist in a way that maybe half the surgeons would cast it, maybe half the surgeons would operate, or maybe we would operate going from the front or operate going from the back. And the science is not settled on those gray area things. There is opinions. And if you're in a medical conference, people will argue like you and me arguing who's better, the Commanders or the Ravens. Like they will go after it, defending their point,
Right.
and they won't always be nice about it. But it's just something that like that's medicine. Reasonable
that's
people
life,
will disagree.
right?
They're
Yeah.
not mad at each other. They might, they're still going to maybe ask advice on the next case or get a second opinion from that doctor. But it's there are areas that where you're not going to disagree or you're not going to agree, and then you're adding in the wellness component to it, and there's no absolute certainty. We're never going to agree on everything. So you can't say nobody should ever be on this medicine, because there's plenty of cases where people should be on that medicine, and nutrition and exercise aren't going to cure everything.
There you go. I think that's very important for people to keep in mind what's out there and see how they can look at the big picture, not just focus in on the answer they're looking for. And,
so it's a little bit like I guess what I'm saying is I think the wellness movement is great, because you're asking who do I listen to, and basically I'm saying I think the wellness movement is great, but don't follow it like it's a religion. Really try to discern.
Yep.
And like
be an explorer. I like that health explorer analogy. I think that's healthy and a great way to kind of approach it.
And also understand how specialized medicine has gotten.
Yeah.
So if you're talking about how cholesterol affects the heart, say, and you have a wellness person saying fix your nutrition, well, I think everybody would agree with that. Now, Then you're going to have different battles within the wellness community. And I would like you to discuss that with a cardiologist, see what the cardiologist says. But then that's where second opinions come in, because the cardiologists might not agree with each other.
Right. Okay. All right. Thanks, Dr. House.
That's mostly what I got on that. But then I was going to say a little bit about studies, is that I think sometimes a study comes out the media sometimes jumps on the study, or the wellness community jumps on the study and puts the study out on, say, Instagram or Twitter or whatever. And people don't always realize how much time doctors spend in their training trying to figure out if studies are good studies or bad studies.
Right. And a lot of those people use it as clickbait.
They
right?
use it as clickbait. They only give a part of the study.
Right.
They don't go in the depth of it. And then they
Right.
don't actually realize that even the subspecialists are arguing in conferences, and one faculty is being like, this is a horrible study. It should have never got, it could be a prestigious journal, but the faculty, one
Right.
expert might be like, the editor of this journal doesn't even know what he's doing. He should have never let this thing in there. And I think people don't realize how much we argue about those studies. So when you see the nightly news say, oh, this next study's out here, and then you see it on Instagram, you got to be a little bit careful. And that's the one thing where, who's telling you the information? Are they staying in your lane? Are they getting paid to tell you?
Right.
Like, does their livelihood depend on their opinion?
Right.
Or are they just giving you an honest answer? There's no monetary gain to it, and they're just saying, yes, you should be on this medicine, or yes, you should do this nutrition plan.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I think you said it. Are they staying in their lane? Right.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear my physical therapist tell me about cardiology. Right.
Yeah.
You know, so, yep.
And
Agreed.
you probably can't, like, you have some people who are like, oh, but this is what I do. I listen to podcasts all the time. But have you ever had like maybe a mentor overseeing you and saying, well, this guy is not qualified. This
Right.
person isn't looking at the studies. This person's doing this thing. It's more when you listen to stuff online or listen to a podcast, just more like, oh, that's a good question. I'm going to look more into that, and maybe I'm going to try to find an expert who I trust,
Yeah.
and then go over it with them. And then it's kind of like you're doing the Socratic method. You're asking
There you go.
questions. So when somebody says your cholesterol is high, I'm putting you on this medicine, you say, oh, do you think I could manage this with diet? And then they tell you, we're going to try it for this amount of time. Because first of all, are you going to stick with the diet? Are
Right.
you actually going to have the willpower to do that? Do they think you have time to let it go down naturally, or is it more urgent? And I hate that we're talking about cholesterol, because that's not my area of expertise.
I know, but
it's a good example, because
but it's
that's
a good
the
example,
one I saw.
right.
Yeah.
But it's also nice that that the way our podcasts work is that Chuck Baldacci introduced us to the Socratic method,
Yes.
and now we're using it every week.
Yes.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It just keeps, it's like
At least-
paying it forward. Yep, it's very nice.
I do have some comments about medical technology.
Okay.
So technology is great. Okay.
Yes. Oh, you are the man of technology. Yes.
Basically, you never want to be the first to take up the new or the last to give up the old. Okay. That was a saying that my dad used to say all the time. Okay. So now the big thing in orthopedics would be like robotic surgery.
Yep.
All right. So if I tell you you need your knee replaced, you might be like, I want the latest and the greatest. So I want my knee replacement done by a robot. So then you search for the hospital that can do it with a robot, right?
Yep.
But right now, the statistical evidence is that the robot's not actually better than the surgeon by himself.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
But
it's
when
like,
it comes to medicine and technology, I very much of your dad's, I'm not going to be the first guy, but I'm not going to be the last guy.
but some people don't necessarily realize that. And
Yeah. No,
and
I get it.
I truly believe that the robot, if you're getting a knee replacement, the robot will be better someday. It's just, it's not there now for knee replacements. I don't know about other specialties. I think urology, general surgery, cardiothoracic surgery, it's doing other things that it might be better. But in knee replacement, the latest data shows that you don't have to go run for a robot.
Right. So, because I know I was looking to get a robot as a co-host,
Yes.
and I still might. So, but you're good for now. Keep going.
So that is my thoughts on health and wellness and medicine in the internet age. It was a little bit of rambling because it's a hard discussion to have, because I'm not saying don't do your own research, but I am saying be careful. Make sure the expert is really an expert. Make sure you're seeking out more than one opinion. Don't only think that wellness videos are true and all big pharma is bad. Just be very careful with it. I didn't want to get into too many specifics, but I just want you to be open-minded about everything.
Yeah, I think that's a good policy on everything. And, keeping it real general is probably a good message for all of us in this day and age and all walks of life and everything we deal with. So I thought that was very entertaining and educational.
And we are testing your editing ability because I think a lot of the last couple minutes is going to end up on the editing floor, but that's fine. And you can't ever go wrong with exercising and eating well, and hope that your doctor doesn't have to make these decisions for you to be like, hey,
Right.
I'm going to recommend this thing because some of these numbers are off. And, that's basically the thing. You're trying to prevent the number of decisions you have to make.
Yeah, exactly. And you're doing it for the long haul. So
there are
all good
black
stuff.
swans, so don't blame yourself if something happens. Not
Yeah,
everything can be.
it is what it is.
You can't live forever. You're just trying to be healthy as long as you can.
And who wants to live forever?
Well, now, I mean, that's a whole nother philosophical. We got to bring
know.
Chuck back for Socrates,
jeez.
Plato, Aristotle,
My
every
fault.
philosopher.
My fault.
Yeah.
And Kid Rock. Okay.
Who wants to podcast forever?
With you, I do.
So, who is the one who ends the podcast when we have a guest? Who ends it the most?
I usually say-
you can tell that they're like, it's usually like you, like 20 minutes in, you're like, oh, we've been here for a long time. Thank you so much for your time. And
Because I've heard all of your stories.
I have another page of notes.
And that's why people keep coming back for the next page of notes.
Yes. All right.
I always leave them wanting more.
Good
All
night.
right, bud. Good night.